everyone, welcome to the Cardinal Beads and More show. Today I will be your host. No, I'm just kidding. I've always really wanted to say that, so I had to start it sometime, especially now that I'm showing my face. So, enough of being silly. In today's video, we're going to be talking about wire. I've been asked from a subscriber to talk more about wire, and I am not like the guru of wire, but I wanted to make a video showing you guys the types of wires that are out there that I use, what I use them for, or how I use them in my designs, in hopes that this will help you as well when you want to make a design, so that you kind of get an idea of what wires you want to use. I mean, it kind of also depends. It also is somewhat of a personal preference. So I'm going to tell you what works for me, and it'll give you a starting point. You guys can go from there and decide, this is what I want to use, or this is what I feel more comfortable with. Again, this is how I use it. If you have any ideas, or if you use any, wires or different wires a different way, or different gauges, please let us know in the comments below. This is our channel. It's a little community where I want everybody to kind of share their tips and tricks. It helps even me, it helps all of us. So if you, like I said, if you know more about wire, or if I say something that's not correct that you might know more about, then please feel free. I will not be offended. Feel free to put it in the comments below, and I will truly appreciate it. I know the other subscribers will as well. So without further ado, let's get into talking about wires. Okay, so to start off with our wires, there are two types of wire that I use mainly in my my everyday jewelry making. There are, many wires that derive from that, but those are my two main, the German style wire and artistic style wire. And those two come in different gauges, meaning that some are thinner, some are thicker. The thicker ones are great for, like shaping things. If you want to make like frames, things like that. The thinner ones are for weaving. And from that, which is where it gets a little bit confusing as to when should I use what, you have the softness and the hardness of the wire. So the thinner the wire, let's just start off with that. The wires that I use mainly are the size 30 all the way up to 16 that I use the most. So I don't really use size 12 or size 32. That is very thin. So the gauge, what that means is that it's been passed through that gauge plate that many times. That's why it gets thinner and thinner and thinner. So by that reasoning, the thinner the wire, the higher the gauge. So a 30 gauge will be super thin wire, and let me show you what that kind of looks like. I brought out a whole variety of wires. This is, I don't even know if you can see it on here. This is a 30 gauge wire. Super thin wire. It's almost, and a 32 gauge would be, they say they even use it, I've heard that they use it even for sewing, like sewing beads into fabric. And then from there, we have a 28 gauge. Where's my 28 gauge? Here we go. Then you have the 28 gauge. Now, 28 gauge, I love to use for weaving and for making these type of coils, depending. Sometimes I'll use them to make this type of coil. As you can see here, this is a teeny tiny coil. Look at how small that is. And that's how you can also make your own French wire. If you don't have any on hand, French wire to protect your beading wire. And so, like I said, 28 gauge is what I use a lot for my bead weaving. Then from there, we have a 26 gauge wire. Now, as you can see, we've got a little bit thicker wire. I don't know if it's possible to see. There we go, against the dark background. So this is a 26 gauge wire. 26 gauge wire is, again, great for making these coils, great for wire wrapping. If you need something a little bit thicker that will show more. This one is also great for making your own twisted wire if you want the twisted wire to be on the thinner side. Then we're going a little bit higher. We've got our 24 gauge wire. 24, as you can see, as we've got a little bit thicker here. This one as well. This one I like for beads that have very thin hole, very small holes. The 24 gauge wire is strong enough for them, but you will be able to fit it on the smaller bead, on the smaller holes, you know, on beads that have small, really small holes that the 22 gauge won't fit in, or the 22 or a 20 gauge. So I like these because that it still holds up, it's still pretty strong, and you can do a wrap loop with this one and your bead will be pretty safe. This one is definitely not for a simple loop though. And then from there we move on to a 22 gauge wire. Now we're getting into the thicker wires. As you can see here, this is a thicker wire. Now, what do I use 22 gauge for? 22 gauge for is you can, and with these now you can start to do, at least I have made my simple loops with this wire, or this one is definitely great for doing wrap loops on your beads. And you don't want a big thick wire, you can do a wrap loop. This one is also, I use it a lot for to make links, to make your own like beaded chain, like a rosary chain. This one is perfect for that. If you want to make a rosary chain, you can use it for that. So this one is that thicker wire, but you still have, it's still thin enough to, you know, use it. You still have that sturdiness, but you can use it for your wrap loops, like I said, and anything, or when even you might be able to get by when you need a 20 gauge, you can go to a 22 gauge, but if you don't have 20 gauge. But my 20 gauge is definitely pretty thick. Now this one is great for already here you want to make shapes, like if you want to make teardrops and then wire wrap them, or if you want to make a star or circles or whatever you want to shape this into, you know, you can definitely use this and you'll be able to this one I also use, you know what, for making ear wires, to make your own ear wires. The ear wires, you can use this, and then you can even work harden it a little bit more, so that the more, like when you hit it with the nylon head hammer, when you hit it with a nylon hammer, you can work harden this wire and it will keep its shape a lot better. It's also a lot easier to work with than thicker wires. So if your hands, you know, are not as strong to work with, like an 18 gauge or higher, 20 gauge is really good for that. This one I use a lot, because it helps me. Like I said, I use it a lot because this one I also use to make pendants. So if I want to make a wrap loop for a pendant, I'll grab a 20 gauge wire. If I want to do ear wires, I'll grab a 20 gauge wire. Chain, if you want to make your own chain, like if you want to do the infinity loop and link them all together, you could use for chain. You can use the 20 gauge to make your own jump rings. This one especially is the best for jump rings. If you like, if you're out of jump rings, you want to make your own, you can use 20 gauge wire. But you can also use those loops if you like to make chainmail. You can use 20 gauge wire. So like I said, it's really versatile, nice thick wire that is still easy to work with. Then you've got your 18 gauge wire. 18 gauge wire, the other day I made ear wires with us, and I tried to put it in my ear. It hurt. It's way, if people don't wear a lot of earrings or whatever, their ears are more delicate, this is way too thick to make something like ear wires, but it is perfect to make forms. Like if you want to make those like different loops and to go around like a filigree around a piece, and you want it to stay that way, you want to work with your 18 gauge wire. 18 gauge wire is a great base for making rings. You can use that 18 gauge wire for making rings, like I said, any shape that you want to just stay that way, you want to go with your 18 gauge wire. That is the one that I go for all my shapes. Is I reach for or for when you want to make a bracelet and you're making your bracelet and you want it to stay that way, not bend. over, if you don't want it to lose that shape, then you go for your 18 gauge wire. And of course, for bracelets, especially like bangles, what you want to do is definitely work hard in this once you're done making your bangles, so that it doesn't lose its shape once you bump it. Also, bangles are great to make with this last one. Like I said, I go from 30 to 16 gauge. This is a 16 gauge wire. As you can see, it's super thick. It's the thickest wire that I work with because I don't really need it. This is all I have right now of 16 gauge wire, to be honest. I need to get some more. But this one is very specific. Again, this one is great for bracelets, for cuffs, bracelet cuffs, anything that, again, you want it to hold the shape and that you won't be needing to bend it so much, like make swirls and all that. No, like one triangle, circle, just basic big shapes. That's what I use this for. If I definitely can't, if I feel that the 18 gauge will be too soft, then I will move over. Or if like a design is asking me, if I'm like following a tutorial and it's asking me for 16 gauge, then I will go with the 16 gauge. So those are the gauges of wire. That's how they look. Now we have we have the German style wire, like I discussed in the beginning, and the artistic style wire. Artistic style wire is a copper core. It's super malleable. It's super soft. It's almost like what you would say gushy. And the artistic wire, the advantage of it also is that it comes in a ton of colors. They're able to make that wire, coat it with a polymer that is like different colors, and it's so easy to work with. You can use it for wrapping. It's really, really nice wire for that. Or if you're a beginner and you don't have a lot of strength in your hands, you definitely want to start off trying with artistic wire. It's a cheaper wire, so it's also great if you need, if you waste something, if you make a mistake and you just don't like it, then it's a great wire to start off with. Artistic wire also comes in different gauges, 22 gauge, 20 gauge, and so on. And I think it goes up to 18 gauges, what I've seen it. I don't know if they're thicker than 18. But this artistic wire is, like I said, it's super soft. As you can see, really malleable, because it's got that, copper core. See how it just kind of, if you want to make a wrap loop with this, it's not going to come out very nice. You can use it to practice. I use it mainly to do wire wrapping and when I need a color. So, here's some of the colors. Like Beadalon has these that are really fun. These are multicolors. Again, they've been around not too long, a few years, and they've got this black, gold, silver one and this green, brown one. So lots of colors. Softflex also carries those, so I'm going to mention the different brands too. Softflex also carries a artistic wire, and as you can see here, it's a different color. When it comes to brands, it's kind of a personal preference, what you are more comfortable with, and I'll explain which ones are my favorite and why. But there's Parawire, and again, they make a beautiful colored wire. Look at this jewel tone, this purple wire. It's just gorgeous. This one is a 20 gauge. Like I was saying, it comes in different gauges. These are 22. This one is a 20 gauge. And then I have 28 gauge, which is even thinner, of this star wire. And look at this beautiful teal blue. They've got this gorgeous, neon pink. For when you're doing holidays, they've got a beautiful red. Or like I said, if you go with Softflex, they got that beautiful green. But look at this green. And I think there's a violet somewhere too that I have. But again, you've got all these colors that you can work with that are beautiful, and you find them in the artistic wire. For German style wire, it's mainly the core is brass, it's copper and brass. Now German style wire is what they call medium hard, is because it is harder than the artistic wire, but not too hard. You could still work with it, and that one is It also has a, like I said, a copper core or brass core. And this one is, it's been pre-hardened already. So you could still, it's still malleable, but it'll hold its shape up a lot better. And those are the ones that I was showing you right now, like this. Which one is this one? This is the 20 gauge for, again, for ear wires, for chain links, for jump rings, all those kind of things that you want to make. You definitely want to use your German style wire, which is a medium hard. And you'll see on the back of the packages, so like if you go to a regular Michael's or any hobby craft store, you'll find like the beadalon, and on the back it has, let me see if I can show it. So here on the, if you can see, it has a hardness scale. And again, here you can see on the dead soft, you've got your artistic wire, which is, and you can pick up, it's not showing because of the light, I'm sorry. So it starts from your dead soft all the way to the hard, which is really not used. I think they use this one in probably like electrical, I'm thinking. But then you have your medium. So right after the dead soft here, then you've got your medium. And then from the medium, you move into your gold filled, and then your gold filled or your half hard silver. Now, I don't have any gold filled, but I do have some silver, and this is the silver that I have purchased. I don't use it a lot because it makes pieces a lot more expensive, because this one is sold by troy ounce. So your jewelry pieces are definitely going to be more expensive, and you have to be careful to save all your, your leftover pieces to either use them again or have them melted down and recycle them, so that you're not, wasting this, what do you call it? The precious metal. So that you're not wasting a precious metal like this. But this one is also, this silver is, again, I think this one is half hard. Where does this fall into? The scale, half hard. Yeah, so silver is half hard. This one that I purchased is 22 gauge sterling silver, and it tells you, how much of the weight that you get, and it's sold by the weight. And then it also says what date and what time it was purchased. So you have everything. This one is a lot more, again, you're going to, your pieces, your jewelry pieces are going to be a lot more expensive when you use this type of wire. Besides the silver, then we also have in German style wire. That's the other thing that artistic wire doesn't have, is German style wire comes in different shapes. So like this one is, if you look here, it's a square wire. This one is 24 gauge square, and I don't know if you could see how it looks. It's, you can see the flatness of it. Let me see if it'll, no, you can't really see the little square, but you can tell that it's not, I don't know if you can tell that it's definitely not round. So this one is used a lot in silver or in copper. These are used a lot for wire wrapping stones, and then they put them in sulfur to antique. And also there is a half round. There's a half round, and this one doesn't show it, doesn't have the picture. This, again, is from a different brand. That's why I was bold enough to make this video, because I've bought from so many brands and so many types of wire that I kind of know them. But this one is a half round. Again, what do you use the half round for? You've probably seen it in wire wrapping. They use the square to make a bail for, not a bail, but to wrap the stone, and then you wrap this around the flat, the square one, and because it has a flat side, it just really looks beautiful on a piece. So you want to use your half round. This one is copper, and mainly I've noticed that a lot of wire wrapping is used with copper, because you can get, it's so soft, it's dead soft, that you can get those intricate designs and weaves. It's so easy to just get that done than fighting with a harder German style wire. You get that beautiful weave that you see, and then you can antique. I've seen them antique the silver and the copper. So those are German style wire. And then finally, German style wire, you have, besides German style wire, you have your memory wire. Now this wire is really thick, and this one is, I forget what it's called. I think this is stainless steel, but this wire is not something that you're going to use your delicate flat, pliers to cut this type of wire. Never ever, or you're going to ruin your pliers. For memory wire, you want to use a special pair of pliers, or like if you have at home those big pliers that you use for, that your hubby has in his, or significant other has in his or her toolbox, you could just cut through this. It cuts through this wire really well. Never use your good pliers on memory wire, or you will completely ruin them. Also, there is a small, you don't have to, but there is these pliers that I got from Beadalon, and as you can see, they've got they're two little loop making pliers. It's got the smaller and the bigger one, and these are perfect for this memory wire because you can really get a good grip on the wire, and that way you do your loop on one side, bead however many loops you want, and then on the other side and put a charm or whatever you want to do. But again, these are the main pliers that I use to work with memory wire. That was the other thing I wanted to talk about with your 16 gauge. With 16 gauge, you also do not want to use your regular pliers. For this type of wire, I would just use this more hardy. These still, you can still not use these for your memory wire. So, but you can use them for a thicker 16 gauge wire. They're more hardy or sturdier. You don't want, these have such a thin that you really don't want to cut anything thicker than 18 gauge, and even 18 gauge, it's kind of iffy. You might want to use these with 18 gauge depending on the brand of your fine pliers. So it depends on how sturdy they are. Otherwise, you will nick them. You'll have all these, they'll just be ruined. There's just one type of wire that I did miss, and that is the twisted wire. You can find it in artistic wire, but a tip is that if you don't have this type of twisted wire, let's say you don't have it, it's not available at your store, you can take any other wire that's on the thinner side, like this, a 20, I recommend a 28 or a 26 gauge wire would be perfect. What you can do is that you cut a really long piece. I end up cutting 5 or even 8 feet of this type of wire, and then I put one side against the pole, and then the two ends, so kind of in the half, I do like, basically I'm doing this. So I put this on a pole, and I take these other two ends, and then I put these two ends, I put them in my my husband's drill, without the tip or whatever. You put them in that drill, and then you just press it slowly, and it will twist it for you. And then you could do a whole long roll of it, and that way you have it handy, and you have any color that you want. Like if you want, this pink, or if you want a green, you can do your own twisted wire in any color that you want to do. Or again, you can buy it like this, but I think there's not many colors in this twisted wire, and this one is artistic, so this one would be a little bit sturdier. Using the German style wire, it'd be sturdier. So that is my recommendation. If you don't have a drill or access to a drill, Beadalon has this little nifty product here. And this one is actually a wire twister, a Econo wire twister. That's what it's called. So it comes with this little circle here, and you put the wires through here. Again, you put it against a post or something that is holding it, and you just start, twisting, and you make your own twisted wire. So really cool to use this, this little tool. So again, I love this tool. I have one. As I've explaining about wires, you've seen that I've kind of been bringing up a ton of brands. I have tried a ton of brands because I do so much wire weaving. I get really frustrated when the polymer, because each of these, that's the coloring or the coating that makes them non-tarnish. This coating is can be very delicate in certain, you know, certain brands. I always like to buy wire that says AAA. The AAA wire means that it's been coated, I guess, several times. It makes it strong, makes that polymer a lot stronger. And I love that when I'm weaving. So far, the most affordable in this AAA that I found is this star wire. Now this star wire, I haven't seen it sold at anywhere. I actually found this wire in Mexico, and then I found somebody that imports it for me from Pakistan. So if you're interested, I can I could definitely get some more and upload it to my Etsy shop if you're interested in trying this wire out. Again, if you find it somewhere else, that's fine with me. But if you don't find it and you'll be interested, I'd be happy to grab some for you. Even at retail cost, it is very inexpensive for a AAA wire. Otherwise, I recommend, if you do a lot of weaving and worry about the polymer or the color coming off, I recommend here in the US you can use the Para wire. They have a great quality wire as far as coating. It probably is also a AAA. It just says premium quality tarnish resistant wire. Of course, this one is a little bit on the more expensive side. I think if you buy more than a certain amount, it gets cheaper. But this one is really, really good. I totally recommend it if you're going to be playing around a lot with the wire like I do. Also, another really good AAA wire is this one called Designs Wire. And they, you know, it's not as cheap as the Star Wire. It's not as affordable as the Star Wire, but it is very good quality, and they sell bundles. So if you go to their website, you know, they have a weird website though. It's called, I forget, I think it's called AAA wires or something like that. But if you do a Google search, or I'll link it down below just to make it easier for you guys. See, this one also says AAA premium quality. So I definitely recommend this wire as well. So any of those three, because like I said, I use it a lot in my weaving. And I use a lot of gold. And then I also now recently have started doing what they call wire crochet or Peruvian stitch that I've learned about, and you can see on my Instagram. If you're interested, you can go and check out what I make. And for that, I use this 30 gauge wire, and I knit it. So it's constantly being, you know, manipulated through with a hook. So for that, again, you know, AAA wire is definitely the way to go if you want to do that for weaving. I'd also recommend, I mean, it's, if you want something like super cheap to practice on, I mean, beadalon is very affordable, and you can find it anywhere at any hobby shop. But I've also brought, it takes forever to get it. I've also grabbed wire from AliExpress, which makes the wire come all the way. It comes all the way from China, but you get a ton of it. And honestly, the only risk is that it says never fade. They have all sorts of, the only risk that you run is that, I'm not sure, I have to check with the vendor, but I use it a lot to practice. I use only this to practice because I'm not sure if it has nickel, and I know a lot of people are allergic to that, and it's not good to have nickel in your jewelry. So I use this wire from AliExpress to practice, is what I use this for. So, you know, if you're just starting out and you want to practice, you can go on AliExpress and buy some of this cheaper wire. If you are patient also and want to wait 4 to 6 weeks to get it in. But, you know, you never know. I want to be able to provide everything that I know that I've used if it helps you guys. So that is all I have for my wire. I know that was a ton of information. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the comments down below. If you really like this video or this type of content, please give it a like. That way I know that you want and that you enjoyed this type of content. So if you're liking this kind of content and you are not a subscriber yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and the bell that's right next to it, because before you know it, I'll be uploading a new video with a tutorial or unboxing of beautiful beads. But for now, I won't leave you waiting until my next video. I'm going to leave this video here where you can make your own bead mat, which is super useful, super easy to make, and I will see you guys over there. Thanks for watching this video.